Chapter 106, Crossing the Grand Unity Realm, taking another 3 steps. After hesitating for a long time, Hanju decided to infuse the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone into the Primordial Judgment Sword. Great Sage Green Python could attack at any moment. He had to increase his attack power and kill him instantly. Not for Great Sage Green Python, Hanju might have kept the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone. However, being cautious, he decided to use it immediately. Despite his curses, Great Sage Green Python had still successfully broken through. Furthermore, he had been stirring up trouble everywhere as if nothing had happened. This meant that Great Sage Green Python was very powerful. Hanju didn't dare to be careless. He immediately took out the Primordial Judgment Sword and placed the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone on the blade. 6-path spirit energy poured into the two, attempting to fuse them together. The Primordial Judgment Sword was his birth Dharma treasure. He had tried before, but it couldn't unleash a power that far exceeded his cultivation realm. This was different from what he had imagined. He had thought that it was just like Eastern Emperor Tai Yi in the legends of the primordial world wielding the chaotic bell and slaughtering all in his path. But on second thought, Eastern Emperor Tai Yi's cultivation level was already top-notch in the world when he was born. That made sense. If mortals' Dharma treasures could unleash the power of an immortal, wouldn't they be drained dry? Primordial Judgment Sword cannot be upgraded by the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone. Please select another Dharma treasure. Hanju frowned. This was ridiculous. It seemed that the novels were right. Primordial Chaos was superior to the Heavenly Tao, Hanju thought for a moment. Why not keep it first? He felt that it was a waste to use it on the Book of Misfortune. Could it curse Great Sage Green Python to death just by raising its grade? After breaking through to the Tribulation Transcendence realm, there might be even stronger Dharma treasures. He wanted to kill the Great Sage Green Python. He had to think of another way, another epiphany of the Sword Tao. It was unknown if that person was still waiting in the Sword Tao River. Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing Great Sage Green Python. Would try to delay the battle as much as possible. Several days later, put down the Book of Misfortune and wiped the blood off his 7 orifices, smiling in satisfaction. After spending a few more days healing his injuries, Hanju began to comprehend the Sword Tao. He had comprehended the 3 pure world cleansing last time. He wanted to see if he could make it even stronger this time. At the border of the Great Yen Yang Tiandong stopped under a huge tree and hurriedly sat down. He circulated his energy to heal his injuries. He was covered in blood and looked extremely miserable ever since he cooperated with the chaotic Heavenly Dog but failed to kill Great Sage Green Python. He was constantly on the run. All these years, he had been hiding everywhere. It was a fate worse than death, vile traitor. Keep running. No matter where you run, I will catch you. At that time, I will pull out your tendons and skin you so that you can experience despair. Great Sage Green Python's sinister and murderous laughter rang in his ears. Yang Tiandong wasn't startled. This was not the first time he had heard this. Clearly, Great Sage Green Python had used some sort of secret technique. It could only send voice transmissions and could not directly attack him. Otherwise, Yang Tiandong would have long been captured. Damn it, Yang Tiandong gritted his teeth. He was truly afraid now. After all these years on the run, he was severely injured. No matter where he fled, it was useless. He had also implicated many cultivation sects and demon kings. He finally returned to the Great Yen. He was very hesitant, unsure if he should return to the Jade Pure sect. Great Sage Green Python was too powerful, so powerful that he felt that no one could defeat him. But if he didn't return to the Jade Pure sect, he would really have nowhere to go. Should I find Demon King Dian Su first? However, Great Sage Green Python had many powerful demon kings comparable to Dian Su. Even Dian Su was no match for them. Yang Tiandong felt conflicted as he healed. An hour later, he moved again. Not long after he left, dozens of birds flew over and continued chasing after him. A phenomenon suddenly appeared in the sky. Purple light covered the sky, and even the ground turned purple. When everyone was shocked, Hanju's consciousness had already entered the Sword Tao River. At this moment, he was silently facing a figure. You again, the figure said angrily. Hanju was even more speechless. Was there something wrong with this fellow? Why was he here all the time? He suppressed his anger and said with a smile, "Senior, I've encountered a mortal enemy. Can you let me take another step? Just one step." The figure retorted unhappily, "You've already comprehended the grand unity mystical power and sword intent. Who can't you defeat in the mortal world? It's impossible to lose unless there's a huge gap between your cultivation realm and his." Hanju sighed and said, "I wanted to visit you after I ascended. Thank you for your reminder. I might die on the path of cultivation now. What a pity." The figure was silent. After a while, the figure slowly said, "Then walk forward." With that, he moved aside, and Hanju's consciousness followed. Moving forward, Hanju suddenly felt a terrifying pressure. It was as if he was carrying a huge mountain on his back, and he almost couldn't breathe. It seemed that this senior was not lying to him. Mortals could not comprehend powers beyond grand unity. Hanju gritted his teeth and persisted. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Hanju started to feel dizzy. He hurriedly shouted, "Senior, save me." As he said that, a hand reached out from behind, grabbed his shoulder, and pulled him back. Immediately after, he felt the world spin as his consciousness fell out of the river. "Junior, if this happens again, I won't save you." The figure snorted coldly. Hanju's consciousness returned to his body and he quickly circulated his energy to stabilize his essence soul. A line of words appeared in front of him. "Your sword Tao mystical power, 3 pure world cleansing has been enhanced." After a while, Hanju's mental state recovered. He immediately started the simulation trial and fought with XVI. He had previously simulated a trial with XVI and the system had kept a copy of her data. A breath later, Hanju opened his eyes. He exhaled. Although it was also an instant kill, he could sense that 3 pure world cleansing had become stronger. With just 3 more steps, 3 pure world cleansing could produce 1,000,000 sword shadows now. They were all famous swords from the long river of the sword Tao. The 1,000,000 sword shadows focused on XVI and destroyed her along with her soul. However, this move consumed a lot of spirit energy and could not be used easily. Hanju smiled in satisfaction. He had more confidence in killing Great Sage Green Python instantly. Heaven and earth grass shivered. After seeing him smile, it couldn't help but say, "Master, your aura earlier was so terrifying. It reminded me of my previous master." Hanju raised his eyebrows. Did that mean that he was already comparable to an immortal god? He was only praising himself a little. How could he compare to the immortal god? Heaven and earth grass was too weak now. It couldn't determine how powerful its previous master was. What previous master? "You only have me now." Hanju snorted. "Ah, yes." Hanju ignored heaven and earth grass and left. The phenomenon in the sky began to fade. Sun Chang'an saw Hanju come out and sighed. "Master, it's not the first time such a natural phenomenon appeared. I wonder what kind of monstrous talent has appeared this time." He couldn't sense anything happening in the connate cave abode, so he didn't think about Hanju. Hanju smiled and cursed in his heart, "You're the monster." He did not reply. Instead, he looked into the distance. Following his gaze, dozens of kilometers away, he saw a peculiar man meditating and recuperating. It was Yang Tiandong. As Yang Tiandong circulated his energy, he looked up at the sky and muttered, "Another genius has appeared. Sigh, how good would it be if he could help me kill Great Sage Green Python?" As soon as he finished speaking, a familiar voice sounded, "You're already at the doorstep and you're still not coming back. Could it be that you really want to be the Great Sage Green Python's son?" Upon hearing this, Yang Tiandong wanted to cry. His eyes turned red. "Master still cares about me." He suddenly felt that he was not fit to be human. He had let Hanju down. Hanju had told him not to go out in the past, but he didn't listen. Now, he was being chased by the Great Sage Green Python and had nowhere to go, so he came back to seek refuge en masse. "Master, don't cry. Go to the foot of the mountain and kowtow for 5 years. Recite 'I was wrong 1,000 times a day.'" Huh? Chapter 107, Great Sage's Attack. Yang Tiandong arrived at the foot of the Immortal Mountain. He knelt down in front of the stone tablet and started to kowtow. Master, I was wrong. Master, I was wrong. Master, I was wrong. He repeated it over and over, his forehead touching the dirt. On the mountain, the black hell chicken jumped down from the fusong tree and asked excitedly, "The half-demon is back?" Half-demon, Sun Chang'an was immediately interested. Could it be the legendary eldest senior brother? Hanju turned around and walked back to the connate cave abode. The black hell chicken and Sun Chang'an went down the mountain. After returning to the cave abode, Hanju immediately began inspecting the demons in the Jade Pure sect. Didn't discover the great sage green python, but he detected its demonic soldiers. There were a few demonic birds. He didn't capture them. Instead, he let them spread the news and waited for great sage green python to arrive, and in the following period of time, the disciples returned to the sect one after another. Murong Chi also returned. He came to the fusong tree and began to cultivate with Sun Chang'an, not going out anymore. Yang Tiandong was very surprised by Sun Chang'an and Murong Chi's cultivation. Master's grand disciple is about to break through to the nascent soul realm. Also, there was that black hell chicken. It was already at the void amalgamation realm. Yang Tiandong couldn't help but mourn for the chaotic heavenly dog. The dog had just broken through to the soul formation realm a few years ago and still wanted to teach the black hell chicken a lesson. It seemed like there was no chance. Hanju listened to their conversation in the cave abode and was speechless when he learned that the chaotic heavenly dog was only at the soul formation realm. How dare you guys? A nascent soul cultivator and a soul formation cultivator dared to plot against great sage green python. No wonder the python was so angry. It was a great insult that such ants were trying to turn on it. Fortunately, they had encountered Huang Zuentian and the others. Otherwise, they would have died long ago. Several months later, Li Qingzi came to visit. When he saw Yang Tiandong still kowtowing at the foot of the mountain, his expression turned strange. After entering the cave abode, he quickly stopped in front of Hanju and said anxiously, "Elder Han, things are not good. Great Sage Green Python has already led the demon army into the Great Yen. According to the findings of our demon pets, their target is likely us. It turns out that the half-demon that Great Sage Green Python is chasing is your disciple. He was the one who had recommended Yang Tiandong to Hanju. Yang Tiandong had even helped the Jade Pure sect build a good relationship with Demon King Jiansu. He had done a great deed, so he couldn't let Hanju expel him from the sect. So be it, let them come." "Are the disciples back? Where's the secret hall?" Hanju asked indifferently. He was still a little nervous. If he couldn't kill the great sage green python in an instant, would the latter escape? That would result in endless trouble. "They're all back. The secret hall has been sealed. I've already sent people to destroy the other teleportation entrances. From now on, we can only enter from the sect," Li Qingzi replied. Hanju nodded. Li Qingzi was very efficient. Li Qingzi asked cautiously, "What's next?" This time, it was different from the past. Great Sage Green Python had already taken down the cultivation world of several states. He was truly fuming. This was a demon disaster that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. Could Hanju alone stop it? Yes, Hanju replied. When Li Qingzi saw this, he could only suppress the panic and uneasiness in his heart and leave. After he left, Hanju took a deep breath. The heaven and earth grass was already in a white jade bottle, ready to escape at any time. Although Hanju was confident, he habitually thought of the worst possibility. If he couldn't win, he could only run. Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and started to curse the great sage green python. This time, he didn't curse with all his might, in case he needed to fight at any time, just had to mess with the other party's mind. Northern Great Yen, in a world of ice and snow, countless demons gathered in the snow. A burly and domineering figure stood on the snow, holding a golden wooden staff. This was Great Sage Green Python, wearing snake-scale heavy armor. Great Sage Green Python looked down at Demon King Jiansu. He smiled sinisterly. "Do you submit?" In human form, Demon King Jiansu was in an extremely sorry state. He was covered in blood and his head was stepped on by Great Sage Green Python. He couldn't move. He wasn't the only one. His subordinates were also subdued by the other demons. They were trampled on the snow and looked at him in horror and despair. The demons all knew that if Demon King Dian Su did not surrender, they would be killed along with him. He's too powerful. Recalling the scene earlier, the demons couldn't help but tremble. In their hearts, Demon King Dian Su was an invincible existence. However, he couldn't even fight back against Great Sage Green Python. Damn it, Demon King Dian Su gritted his teeth, feeling extremely sullen. At this moment, Great Sage Green Python suddenly frowned, his temper rising. Damn it, I'm getting cursed again. Great Sage Green Python shouted in anger, curse. When Demon King Dian Su heard this, he couldn't help but recall his own experience. Looks like this fellow has been targeted by an immortal. Fine, then. He had to lower his head first. After all, this guy would not live for long. Demon King Dian Su said grimly, I'm willing to submit. Great Sage Green Python snorted and shifted his right foot away. At the same time, he gestured for his subordinates to release the subordinates. Do you know Yang Tiandong? Great Sage Green Python asked. With a wave of his right hand, snow gathered and formed a mirror. Yang Tiandong's face was reflected in it. The Dian Su Demon King had just gotten up. He stared and couldn't help but ask in surprise, isn't this my adopted son? Did he offend you? Adopted son? Great Sage Green Python's eyes turned cold. Boom. The Great Sage Green Python's staff slammed into Demon King Dian Su's head. Blood splattered all over the ground, scaring all the demons. Dian Su's essence soul floated out of his body and cried out in fear, Great Sage Green Python. What are you doing? I'm willing to submit. I didn't order Yang Tiandong to offend you. Great Sage Green Python harumphed. He also acknowledged me as his foster father and even organized a rebellion against me. Dian Su was stunned. Rebellion? Gasp. I'll not destroy your essence soul, but you'll have nothing to do with Yang Tiandong from now on. Once I capture him, if you speak up for him, I'll make sure that you can't be reborn. Great Sage Green Python spoke with a sinister expression. The fury in his heart burned once again. Bastard. He even acknowledged another demon king as his foster father. Great Sage Green Python felt humiliated. This was simply unbearable. At the foot of Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain, before the stone tablet, Yang Tiandong was still kowtowing. Boom. The sound of thunder jolted him awake. He looked up and saw rolling dark clouds. These dark clouds were caused by a demonic aura. Thinking of something, his expression turned fearful. He then looked at the horizon. The demonic aura at the end of the world engulfed the mountains and rivers. It was as if an abyss had struck. It was horrifying. Great Sage Green Python had arrived. Yang Tiandong was not the only one frightened. Everyone from the Jade Pure sect was so frightened that they walked out of their cave abodes and pavilions. Elders, bring the disciples of the various peaks to their respective sect protection arrays. Activate the array formation immediately. Guan Yogung's voice resounded throughout the sect. Everyone could hear the seriousness in his voice. The disciples flew in all directions. Their discussions were endless. Great Sage Green Python is here? Oh no. Can we get through it? I heard that the other states have fallen. Damn it, why didn't the sect master bring us along to escape? We're completely trapped. Escape? Where do you want to go? The dynasties and states around the Great Yen have already been ravaged by demons. It's useless no matter how you try to escape. We might as well gather together and at least try to resist. The news of the Great Sage Green Python had already spread a few years ago. The disciples were extremely afraid, but thankfully, there were many people, so they did not panic. Unfilial son. I thought you'd run away, but you've come to such a small sect. Today, I'll eat all of them. Let's see where you can run. A cold laugh echoed through the area as Yang Tiandong's face turned deathly pale. Chapter 108, Slaying the Demon Saint. Upon hearing Great Sage Green Python's words, everyone in the Jade Pure sect, from the sect master to the outer sect disciples, were all shocked. The demon wanted to eat all of them. Inside the connate cave abode, Hanju also heard what Great Sage Green Python said. He raised an eyebrow. So arrogant, he did not seem to be affected by the Book of Misfortune. Is he so strong? Hanju immediately used the simulation trial to search for the demon. However, there was no great sage green python within 100 miles. He had yet to arrive and was already posturing, helpless. Hanju immediately shifted Yang Tiandong into the Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain to prevent him from being captured by the demon and used as a hostage. Of course, if that was the case, Hanju would not be merciful. In any case, he had already imprinted the 6 paths insignia on Yang Tiandong. It was fine even if he died. They could continue their relationship as master and disciple in the next life. Hanju slowly stood up. The numinous treasures on his body shone faintly. Heaven and earth grass shivered and said, "Master, where are you going? Don't leave me behind." Without looking back, Hanju said, "I'll be back soon." He walked out of the cave abode. The black hell chicken, Sun Chang'an, Yang Tiandong, and Morong Chi waited anxiously under the Fusong tree. Great sage green python's terrifying demonic aura had already enveloped the sect. Not only his demonic aura, but the demonic auras of other demons could also be felt. The demonic aura gathered together and surged like a wave from all directions, threatening to drown the Jade Pure sect Xiao Yao, Guan Yu Gang, Lu Bumi, Li Qingzi, Fairy Shishen, and the others floated high in the sky. From their point of view, the world was filled with black clouds formed by demonic aura, oppressive and terrifying. Cold sweat broke out on the elders' foreheads. Just how powerful is this great sage green python? Who is he referring to? I can't take it. Where's deity slaying elder? Elder Xiao, Elder Lu, can you defeat this great demon? How many demons are there in great sage green python's army? Has the sect protection formation been activated? While the elders were alarmed, the disciples were even more terrified. Xing Hongxian walked out of the cave abode and came to Hanju's side. She asked nervously, "Husband, what are you going to do?" She often heard Hanju say that if he met an enemy he couldn't defeat, he would run away. Xing Hongxian didn't dislike him running away. She was afraid that Hanju would leave her behind and run away alone. Hanju looked into the distance and said softly, "Let's wait a while more." Seeing that he was so calm, Xing Hongxian, the black hell chicken, Sun Chang'an, and Morong Chi felt relieved. Yang Tiandong looked at Hanju in disbelief. "Is master so powerful that he doesn't fear the great sage green python?" He understood Hanju. If he didn't have absolute confidence, he wouldn't be so calm. Little did they know that Hanju was frantically using the simulation trial to search for the strongest person in the sect. Why isn't he here yet? Hanju felt like he was playing an online game. He kept refreshing to try and spawn the boss. After a while, Great Sage Green Python, first level of the Tribulation Transcendence Realm. A newly advanced Demon Saint. Hanju immediately started the simulation trial. 2 breaths later, he frowned and closed his eyes again. A breath later, he opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, fortunately, he had improved his 3 pure world cleansing, or else he wouldn't have been able to break through the golden wooden staff's defense. Hanju opened his right hand and maintained the posture of holding the sword. The reason why he didn't take out the primordial judgment sword was that he wanted to catch the demon saint off guard. He walked to the edge of the cliff and gazed into the horizon. Great Sage Green Python was flying towards the Cultivate, diligently become Immortal Mountain. It was not because he had guessed that there would be a formidable opponent on the mountain, but because he was coming for Yang Tiandong. Yang Tiandong could clearly sense Great Sage Green Python's killing intent. His head was covered in a cold sweat and his entire body was trembling in fear. Hanju didn't care about him and continued to look at the sky, and next to no time, the figure of the Great Sage Green Python appeared. The 300-meter-tall figure walked over while standing on a black cloud of demonic chi, carrying a golden wooden staff on his shoulder. He seemed as if he was from the primeval times, and his entire body emanated an overbearing and terrifying aura. Behind him were countless demons in the churning demon clouds, each more ferocious than the last. They looked at the Jade Pure sect as if they were looking at a buffet. The scent of a cultivator is so fragrant. Don't snatch my food today. I'm starving. All you know is to eat. Humans are not just edible, especially their women. There are too few people. There's not enough for us to share. Listen to the demon saint's orders. We can't act without orders. Great Sage Green Python had already noticed young Tiandong. A sinister smile appeared on his face. Not running this time? The Great Sage Green Python's laughter sounded again, causing everyone in the sect to tense up. Young Tiandong didn't dare to look at him and could only turn to look at Hanju. Hanju's expression was calm, was considering when to attack. He wanted to catch the Great Sage Green Python off guard. Great Sage Green Python noticed Hanju. His cultivation level was too low. He then glanced at the Black Hell chicken. This chicken's cultivation level was not bad. He could tame it. Immediately after, his gaze landed on the Fusong tree. This tree, as if thinking of something. Great Sage Green Python's eyes widened. How is this possible? Why is this divine tree here? Great Sage Green Python was shocked. Immediately, a strong desire arose in his heart. He wanted this tree. His spiritual sense had already swept across the Jade Pure sect. The strongest was only at the 9th level of the Void Amalgamation Realm. He couldn't even withstand a single strike from him. Great Sage Green Python noticed the Jade Pure sect cultivators and laughed. I'll let you experience my power. He leaped up as a violent pressure descended from the sky. The 18 peaks, the main peak, and the nearby mountains shook. Great Sage Green Python swooped down, aiming for the Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain. Everyone in the sect was extremely nervous. They all knew who was hiding in the Immortal Mountain. Even that person could not stop the demon. They could only wait for death. Li Qingzi's hands were clenched tightly in his sleeves, and beads of cold sweat formed on his forehead. Fairy Shixian frowned and her body trembled slightly. All the elders were extremely nervous. This was not the first time they had relied on deity slaying elder, but this time, the situation was different. The nearby states had already fallen. Such a calamity was unprecedented, at least not in the history they knew. Time passed very slowly. It was as if a slow motion button had been pressed. Everyone stared at Great Sage Green Python, unable to hear anything else. The world fell silent. Under their gazes, countless sword shadows suddenly shot out from the Immortal Mountain. They were densely packed, like a school of carps crossing the river. They soared into the sky, unstoppable. With a deafening boom, the black sword beam illuminated the world. Great Sage Green Python was drowned by the sword shadows. 3 pure world cleansing. Hanju made his move. Standing at the edge of the cliff, he maintained the posture of brandishing the primordial judgment sword. The sword pointed to the sky, the golden cicada's mystic divine robe fluttered, and the Earth Emperor's soul ward swayed wildly in the wind. The Black Hell Chicken, Sun Chang'an, Morong Qi, Yang Tiandong, and Xing Hongxian all widened their eyes and looked at Hanju's back in shock. From behind, Hanju looked like an immortal. He was so majestic and awe-inspiring. I was going to do this, Hanju said softly in response to the previous question. His eyes were calm and his face was expressionless. Xing Hongxian heard the answer she didn't get before. Although Hanju's words were light, they were filled with power and struck her heart hard. These words were etched in her mind. Chapter 109, Living Immortal, Strongest in the World. Boom, the moment 3 pure world cleansing was used, hundreds of thousands of sword shadows soared into the sky and crushed the descending Great Sage Green Python. That's right, a complete slaughter. Even his soul and body were destroyed. He didn't even have the chance to reincarnate. The sword shadow stirred up a violent wind that swept in all directions. It was like an immortal waving his hand, stirring up waves in the mortal world. Hanju held the primordial judgment sword in his right hand. With a twist of the blade, an even more powerful sword aura shot up into the sky. Sword chi formed a sea, blotting out the sky. Everyone and the demons widened their eyes and opened their mouths, dumbfounded, disbelief. Sword shadows condensed in the sea of sword chi. These swords were all different in appearance. Some were like gentlemen with a refined temperament, some were like kings looking down on the world, and some were like saints. The blades were all wide and majestic, and in the blink of an eye, the number of sword shadows increased to 1 million and was still growing rapidly. Everyone and the demons felt their vision blur. They focused and looked again. The sky was filled with sword shadows. They were so dense that they could not be counted. Xiao Yao, Lu Bumi, and the other elders were also shocked, especially in the case of Xiao Yao. Although he was blind, he could sense everything. His body trembled as he muttered, "Such a mystical power." He couldn't help but recall the scene 5,000 years ago when the spiritual firmament sect was slaughtered by the power of immortals, the demonic aura of Great Sage Green Python. Taoist Jingshu shivered as she muttered, "Gone." The demonic aura of the demon saint vanished. Before anyone could react, Great Sage Green Python died. The elders thought that Hanju might win, but they didn't expect him to win so overwhelmingly. The scene in front of them told them that Great Sage Green Python had been killed by Hanju in one strike. How great was the difference in strength, how powerful was the deity-slaying elder, at the same time. The million sword shadows of the three pure world cleansing shot in different directions. The sea of sword chi condensed into sword shadows and continued to shoot. The demons watching from afar finally reacted. Boom, all of them turned to flee in fright. The demon saint is dead. Our demon saint has died. Run. How is that possible? Who is hiding in the Jade Pure sect? How could Great Sage Green Python die so quickly? Ridiculous. How could the speed of the demons be faster than Hanju's sword shadows? Almost instantly, blood burst out from the sky in all directions. It was like fireworks blossoming spectacularly. Today, all cultivators of the Jade Pure sect would never forget this scene, because on this day, they personally witnessed the power of an immortal. He had single-handedly suppressed countless demon soldiers and demon kings. A line of words appeared in front of Hanju. "You have killed a tribulation transcendence realm existence for the first time. Obtained a heavenly Tao spirit stone." Another heavenly Tao spirit stone. Hanju raised his eyebrows as he pulled with his left hand. A golden wooden staff flew towards him. It was the Great Sage Green Python's treasure. There was only this treasure left over from the body of the Great Sage Green Python. 3 Pure World Cleansing was actually unable to completely destroy this treasure, which showed how powerful it was. At the moment, the golden wooden staff was cracked and filled with smoke. Hanju subconsciously extended his divine sense into the staff. The next second, his eyes widened and he hurriedly retracted his divine sense. His expression grew grave. Inside the golden wooden staff hid a wisp of a soul. It was a demonic-looking man curled up in the staff's dimensional space. "What's this?" Hanju was surprised. He immediately threw the golden wooden staff into the little universe belt. That remnant soul was not strong enough to hurt Hanju, but he was afraid of waking it up. What if this fellow had a powerful background? Hanju looked at the surroundings again. The demons were utterly defeated. In just a few seconds, 3 Pure World Cleansing had killed hundreds of thousands of demons. Hanju turned around and saw Xing Hongxian, the black hell chicken, and the others still in a daze. Yang Tiandong was especially stunned. He knew exactly how powerful Great Sage Green Python was. The invincible existence in his heart was Great Sage Green Python. The demon saint who had brought endless despair and fear to him had been insta-killed by his master. Thousands of emotions gathered in Yang Tiandong's heart, finally turning into endless guilt. The strongest person had always been by his side, and yet he had always pursued authority and power elsewhere. Yang Tiandong smiled bitterly and didn't even dare to look at Hanju. Hanju walked towards the cave abode. "Master is too strong. He's unparalleled in the world." The black hell chicken was extremely excited. This was not the first time that a seemingly invincible expert was insta-killed by Hanju before he reached the Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain. "I knew it, Master was right. Cultivating in seclusion is the proper thing to do. Only by spending time on cultivation could they surpass their enemies." Xing Hongxuan's eyes lit up as she looked at Hanju. He was indeed the man she liked from the start, and no one was prouder than her. When she took a fancy to Hanju, he was still immortal. She was the first person to think that he was different. Of course, her interest started from his looks. Sun Chang'an and Morong Qi also worshipped Hanju, especially Morong Qi, who was still somewhat unfamiliar with this grandmaster. He had always been curious about Hanju's cultivation level. Today, he saw it. As Hanju walked past Yang Tiandong, he said, "Hurry up and kneel at the foot of the mountain. From now on, if you dare to run out without my permission, I will cut off all ties with you. I won't interfere even if you face death." Young Tiandong took a deep breath and clenched his fists. He turned around and knelt down to Hanju. He kowtowed 3 times before going down the mountain. One demon after another flew past the mountains. One of them was surprisingly Demon King Dian Su. Although only his essence soul remained, Demon King Dian Su still had some means. As he fled, he killed those demons with weaker cultivation levels, was taking revenge on Great Sage Green Python, so that Immortal was hiding in the Jade Pure sect. No wonder the curse vanished after I went there. It seems that the curse that Great Sage Green Python felt was a warning from that Immortal. Unfortunately, that fellow insisted on wreaking havoc and died. Demon King Dian Su thought to himself, swore that he would never offend the Jade Pure sect or kill anyone in the Great Yen. If he had the chance, he would pay a visit to the Jade Pure sect. He could even offer to be that Immortal's mount. It was simply a fortuitous encounter. On the other side, the entire Jade Pure sect was in a state of extreme excitement. The sensible Li Qingzi immediately arranged for the elders to deal with the aftermath and strictly forbade them from disturbing the peace and quiet of the Immortal Mountain. After today's battle, the deity-slaying elder once again stood on the altar in the hearts of the cultivators of the sect, inside the connate cave abode. Hanju sat on the bed and played with the golden wooden staff, was considering how to deal with it. He wanted to destroy it, but he was afraid of awakening the remnant soul. Inside. No, I can't keep it, I should just destroy it. If the remnant soul still had a true body somewhere, it might come here in search of it. Hanju immediately used the 6-path soul absorption technique to suck out the remnant soul. At this moment, the remnant soul suddenly opened its eyes. What do you want? A cold voice sounded, startling Hanju. Daoist Juyan has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 5 stars. When Hanju saw the line of words in front of him, he was so frightened that he directly destroyed the remnant soul. 5 stars of hatred, that was almost impossible to resolve. What was the point of keeping the remnant soul? Chapter 110, Daoist Juyan, Jade Pure Sacred Sect. After destroying Daoist Juyan's remnant soul, Hanju immediately pulled out the interpersonal relationships. Soon, he found Daoist Juyan's portrait. Daoist Juyan, 8th level of the loose Immortal Realm. Because you killed the demon pet and soul fragment he left in the mortal world, he hates you. When you ascend, he will definitely find trouble with you. Current hatred points, 6 stars, 8th level of the loose Immortal Realm. Waiting for me to ascend, Hanju was first shocked, then heaved a sigh of relief. That's it, I'll wait until my cultivation is sufficient to kill you before I ascend. What can you do to me then? Hanju thought proudly. That was good, too. Hanju didn't have to think too much when he knew the other party's background. Hanju had an idea. He took out the Book of Misfortune and the 2 heavenly Tao Spirit Stones. There were too many powerful enemies. He had to use some unconventional methods to distract them. After making up his mind, Hanju immediately threw the 2 pieces of heavenly Tao Spirit Stones into the Book of Misfortune. About 4 hours passed. The Book of Misfortune leveled up successfully. Book of Misfortune upgraded to a Supreme Grade Grand Unity Numinous Treasure. From a Supreme Grade Numinous Treasure to a Supreme Grade Grand Unity Numinous Treasure, this was the result of 2 upgrades. In other words, after Supreme Grade Numinous Treasure was the Grand Unity Numinous Treasure, and above that was the Supreme Grade Grand Unity Numinous Treasure. Hanju immediately cursed Daoist Juyan to test the effect. The Book of Misfortune was an ominous Dharma treasure. Hanju didn't dare to use too much force, afraid that he would squeeze himself dry. Great Sage Green Python had fallen. This news quickly spread to the Great Yen, then to the surrounding states and dynasties. Both the righteous and demonic paths of the Great Yen cultivation world were in awe of the Jade Pure sect. Previously, they felt only fear. Now, even the fiendish cultivators had respect for the Jade Pure sect. The invincible Great Sage Green Python had died there. How powerful were they? With Hanju's help, the Jade Pure sect directly established the Great Yen as a cultivation holy land. When the news spread to the other states, it also caused an uproar. Following the attack of Great Sage Green Python, the cultivation sects of the various states fled, and those in seclusion looked desolate. West Abyss State, true martial sect. West Abyss State also suffered from the rampage of Great Sage Green Python, but the true martial sect managed to escape. The main reason was that before Great Sage Green Python could deal with them, he was distracted by Yang Tiandong. The upper echelons of the true martial sect gathered in a hall. Everyone was shocked and deeply shook when they heard that Great Sage Green Python had perished. Shangguan Qiujian smiled bitterly. Jade Pure Sect and Deity Slaying Elder, they truly hid well. Huang Jihao stood behind him with a complicated expression. He was now a core disciple, everyone looked at him. One of the elders asked, "Discipline Elder, you've been to the Great Yan's Jade Pure Sect before. Is it really so powerful?" Shangguan Qiujian smiled bitterly when he heard that. "To be honest, I went to challenge the deity slaying elder of the Jade Pure Sect, but I was defeated by him with a single strike. I'm too embarrassed to talk about the past." From the looks of it, the person who killed Great Sage Green Python should be the deity slaying elder. Even Great Sage Green Python was killed, so Shangguan Qiujian suddenly felt much better talking about it. Far away in the Jade Pure Sect, Hanju felt baffled when he received the notification that his favorability had increased. Shangguan Qiujian straightened his back as if it was a glorious thing to lose to Hanju. From now on, the Jade Pure Sect will be the holy land of the Great Yen cultivation world. Perhaps the holy land of the 10 provinces and 9 dynasties. The true martial sect cannot offend them. We have to befriend them immediately. I'm willing to let my disciple rush to the Jade Pure Sect and thank them on behalf of our sect and the entire West Abyss state. We have to prepare a huge gift before meeting them. Shangguan Qiujian said firmly. One of the elders frowned and said, "The true martial sect has suffered heavy losses. If we fawn over the Jade Pure Sect now, what will the disciples think?" Shangguan Qiujian glared at him and shouted, "Wake up! What are you thinking? To the public, the Jade Pure Sect saved everyone in the world. Shouldn't we thank them? For personal reasons, from now on, the Jade Pure Sect will definitely be a holy land that all cultivators in the world look up to. If we are a step slower, other sects will go first. When the Jade Pure Sect becomes stronger, some sects will definitely use their power to pressure the others. The earlier we go, the better." His words caused the elders to ponder. 9 Dragons Sect. After hearing his disciples' report, Huang Zuantian waved his hand to dismiss him, was the only one left in the room, and he revealed a look of admiration. Senior is worthy of being a senior. Even Great Sage Green Python isn't his match. How about I just give the 9 Dragons Sect to the Jade Pure Sect? Huang Zuantian muttered to himself as his eyes flickered with thought. He wasn't joking, he really had that thought. Ever since the calamity caused by Great Sage Green Python, the 9 Dragons Sect had been torn apart. Many people were afraid of him, and many had even fled, was truly exhausted by such a sect. In addition, the death of Great Sage Green Python had made him realize that only by cultivating diligently like his senior could one feel safe. Cultivators should cultivate for longevity. The so-called sects were only for passing down their legacy. If the sects were born for power, what was the difference between them and mortal gangs? Huang Zuantian didn't want to be tied down by power anymore. He wanted to imitate Hanju. After cursing Daoist Juyan, Vermilion Bird, and Mo Yuling for 7 days each, Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune in satisfaction. Heaven and Earth Grass asked curiously, "Master, what are you doing?" Hanju replied, "Comprehending the great Tao of heaven and earth. This book doesn't have words or any secrets. It's precisely because it has nothing that I can let my mind wander in thought." Heaven and Earth Grass seemed to understand his words. Hanju waved his hand and moved it out of the white jade bottle and into the soil. He closed his eyes and cultivated. Killing Great Sage Green Python did not make him too happy. He had to kill a few enemies at least on the path of cultivation. It was quite a normal thing. He hoped that the effects of the incident would disappear as soon as possible, lest there be more trouble. For the next period of time, he stayed in the connate cave abode and did not leave. Under Li Qingzi's arrangements, no one dared to disturb him. The Jade Pure Sect became lively. As the news that Great Sage Green Python had died in the Jade Pure Sect spread, both the righteous and demonic sects came to thank them for eliminating a great enemy for the human race. Even sects from other states came. Huang Jihao came and wanted to visit Hanju, but was stopped. In the end, the elders received him. 8 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju was getting closer and closer to the 9th level of the body integration realm. On this day, Li Qingzi came to visit him. When he met Hanju again, Li Qingzi looked very restrained. Elder Han, recently, the elders have suggested changing the name of the sect to Jade Pure Sacred Sect. The emperor of the Great Yan dynasty has also come to visit and is willing to worship the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. What do you think? Li Qingzi asked. Hanju opened his eyes and said, "You guys can decide on such matters yourselves." The name Jade Pure Sacred Sect sounded very grand and had the status of a holy land. This was good as it could attract more cultivators. In addition, I've already sent a message to the ancestor and asked him to return. He has already agreed. In a few years, he will return and take up the position of sect master again. I don't want to die early, so I've decided to focus on cultivation and fight for a longer lifespan. Li Qingzi sighed, feeling a little embarrassed. Hanju saw through him and said, "When the sect master's position is handed over, you can move here to cultivate. As for the cave abode, you can make one yourself."